I am thrilled to welcome Brian Baldinger back to the show. We've got Baldy joining us on a weekly basis again. And Baldy, first off, so great to have you back on. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Zach. I mean, I feel like I just got back from Colorado, and
Yeah.
seeing snow in April is nothing that I'm usually too used to. But a lot of snow, falling in those Rocky Mountains. It was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, and so Baldy, you were at Colorado's Pro Day this past Friday, and I just kind of want to get your feeling on that Pro Day because the Broncos, we were just talking about it, had a huge representation there. Sean Payton, George Payton, so many coaches, including our guy Todd Davis. But on top of that, I just want to where is Travis Hunter going to play in the NFL in terms of what side of the ball? Where is Shedeur Sanders going to be drafted? And then some of these other guys. I mean, there's like 10 other guys that could potentially be in the NFL from this Colorado Pro Day.
Well, you couldn't help but notice the contingency led by Sean. Sean was, just really. I mean, he looked like he was relaxed. He was enjoying himself. People were coming up to him. I mean, you couldn't help but notice the head coaches, Stefanski, Brian Dable, the guys that were there in attendance. So, if I was Sean Payton, I'd bring my staff. You're 45 minutes away in Boulder. They haven't had a pro day like this in, I don't know, forever. So go down there and watch Shedeur throw. Go watch Travis Hunter just do anything because the guy's unreal. And where's Travis Hunter going to play? Wherever he wants to play. The guy's already one of the best athletes in the NFL. Like that guy is, I haven't seen many people that are that indefatigable, can just run all day long, never get tired, and then produce like he's produced. Like he's going to be fun to watch. But I think he's going to play both ways in this league. I talked to Champ Bailey that was there, and Champ had that opportunity coming out of college, did a little bit in the NFL, but Champ felt the same way about him. I think he's your starting, I don't know, whatever he wants to do. Starting wide receiver, starting corner, some combination. We're going to see him on both. And maybe in the return game as well. You're going to see that guy make an impact.
Do you just throw him in on both sides right away, or is it somewhere? To me, I would almost think of it as like by year 3, that's when I'd want him like full time, both sides, and maybe like start him on one side, ease him in for a bit. But what would your plan be?
I think he wants to be a starting wide receiver. That's just what I think. But he didn't say that to me, so I don't want to put words in his mouth. We did, talk about a lot of different things, but I feel like he could be your starting corner just because he's got such great ball skills. I feel like he could be your starting corner, and then you could work him in to whatever package you want. You want a 2-minute drill. You want, I don't know, you want a red zone, threat. I mean, there's just so many different ways you could put the ball in his hands. You could have a quick game package for him in just a screen game and things like that. I think there's things you could put into your point, like literally week 1, where he could be just the athlete that he is. And then as you start to grow the offense and you start to find, is he a slot receiver? Is he better outside formations that he works best out of, coverages that he beats, you name it. I think you could grow that package, but maybe just start him on the defensive side of the ball right now. In whatever it is, whatever style of defense, you want to run. I think he can play any style.
We kind of opened up this show talking about the pro day and maybe the more realistic targets for the Broncos, and the three of us kind of agreed that it's those 3 receivers after Travis that could make the most sense for this team. Curious your thoughts on those guys: Will Shepard, Lajonte Wester, and Jimmy Horn.
Well, I think Jimmy Horn. I mean, if he ran a 4.4 on Friday, I was talking to Pat Shermer, who was the offense coordinator of Colorado, and I was like, "Well, this sure looks like a Chip Kelly offense to me." And he goes, "That's where we got the offense from. We got it from Chip." Chip. He's got his inside receivers, Wester and Horn, and so I think those guys are natural slot receivers. The outside guys, so they can play fast. I mean, they only had 5 legitimate players. They had 4 receivers and a quarterback. I mean, so they put in, basically Chip's offense because they didn't run it very well. They didn't have a very good offense line. And so all that kind of stuff, running backs. So they just made the offense and fit the offense to the personnel they had. But I think both inside receivers, they both have return skills. In fact, they went outside and were catching balls for a lot of the scouts in the punt game when everybody else was kind of doing when Shador was throwing and whatnot. So I think they got a look at. But I think that both of them can play in the slot, and I think they both could help out in the return game right now.
Baldy, I want to take a big picture look at this Broncos team. Entering the offseason, they had 4 major holes: safety, inside linebacker, tight end, and running back. Well, they went out and got 3 big-time players to fill 3 of those holes, and running back now is the only one that just remains as a big hole. Is it just too obvious that running back is going to be their first-round pick, or is that just the one that makes so much sense and you have to weigh running back as a heavy favorite to be their first-round pick?
Well, Javante's gone, obviously. So there's Jaleel, and Audric. It's a need. It's certainly a need. They tried that rotation last year and who could get hot. And, I mean, every week was almost somebody different. This is a good draft for running backs, though. I don't know that you have to spend your 20th pick on a running back, but there's plenty. I mean, I don't care if it's Scatabo right now or Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State. I mean, whatever style of back you want. RJ Harvey at UCF. I mean, there's so many good backs in this draft, not to mention Ashton Jenney. They don't have a chance to get Ashton. But, I don't know where Omarion Hampton falls, where he goes. He looks like a first-round pick to me. But, the 2 Ohio State running backs could certainly be there at 51, possibility. I feel like that's – because this draft is so deep in defensive line, I'm not saying that's a priority, but – who doesn't want to keep stocking defensive line in this, in any team right now? I could see them going in the trenches with the 20th pick and running back with the 51st pick. And I think there's going to be a good running back there. Now, they could reverse that, and I don't know, like how they look at Hampton. Like, I think he might be gone by 21, but he's a great big back that's got skills. Ironically, he's from North Carolina. And that's what they thought they were getting with Javonte before the knee injury.
Yeah. I'm curious how you see kind of the top of this running back group shaking out. Because Genty is probably a pretty clear number 1. I guess starting there, do you think that he's worth trading up for if you're the Broncos? Or because of the depth in the class, do you just wait? And then who's kind of next up? Is it just Hampton and then the drop-off?
Well, I guess you got to go, okay, so the Raiders are picking at 6. Do they take Genty at 6? The Bears are picking at 10. Do they take Genty at 10? Or does, because there's so much depth at running back in this class, does Genty drop a little bit? And then the Broncos sitting there at 20 going, man, if he gets to 14, somehow, like, doing package picks or players or whatever, and go get this stud. I can't see that scenario because he's just too good. He's just muscles on top of muscles, and he's just a fun guy to study. But that's kind of how I look at it, is the Broncos probably have a trading point where they're going, okay, let's, if he falls past this point, we're going to start making some phone calls. I would think there's a trigger point for them in this draft, on up in Green Bay on the 24th here, 16 days from now, where they could get real active if something like that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Baldy, there's been a lot of talk with T-Mac potentially going to the Broncos at 20, and I think the 3 of us have different views on the Broncos' need at receiver. I don't think Sean feels like he needs to go early in the draft for a receiver, but a lot of people rightfully think that, man, they haven't done anything at receiver this offseason, so it means that they might make a big move early in the draft there. Could you see the Broncos using a first-round pick on a receiver? And if so, I mean, does T-Mac make sense, or would it be maybe Matthew Golden or some other spot?
Now, they're totally different players. Golden is just a blazer, but he's also a good route runner, and he had one great year of production at Texas. But, we've seen the receivers coming out of Texas over the last 2 years. So, but T-Mac, he hasn't run. I don't know if he's got a private session coming up, because he doesn't look like he's a blazer. And he doesn't look like he's got great change of speeds. He just looks like a big receiver, that looks pretty acrobatic with the ball in the air. And he's got, he's 6'4" and a quarter. He's 219 pounds. He's got tremendous size. But, Cortland Sutton kind of fills that sort of, that size type guy as well. Do they need 2 guys that are sort of similar like that? We saw Troy Franklin and, Ville and Mims all kind of find their roles last year. as the season progressed. Unless they think T-Mac is really special, like he's just this jump ball phenomenon, and like I just don't know that he runs well enough to really be a difference maker right now. That big of a difference maker to spend your 20th pick. If I'm building a roster, I mean, receiver is generally almost the last position I look at because you get it. Bo Nix improves, all of a sudden Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, they all start getting their touches. Vile starts getting a bunch of short yard targets. I feel like that's the job of the quarterback is to just find the open receiver, and you don't have to be incredibly special at that position.
Baldy, how close do you think the Broncos are to being able to compete for the division and then maybe even, to make noise in the playoffs? And what do you think that they need to do to get closer to that?
Well, the playoff loss was disappointing. You can finish 10-7 and beat the Chiefs in a meaningless game and get to 10 wins, get in the playoffs. But that was you sort of measure your team by how you perform in the playoffs. And to see what Buffalo did to them in that game, you go, we don't have enough firepower on offense to compete with Buffalo or Kansas City in a playoff or Baltimore in a playoff game. We've got to get more explosive. We got to get better in the run game. There's some things. So, I think defensively, that was not a good performance either. But we know defensively they're pretty good. And if these guys come back healthy and with Fonga and Greenlaw, they're really good players. So you hope that they're fully healthy and ready to roll. And I'd say the defense can be in good shape. But offensively, if you're saying, okay, how do you compete with Kansas City? You got to score. You got to score. Now, Bo Nix is a rookie. He started 18 games. We saw development. But we got to see a year or two jump from Bo Nix and his offense, I think, for them to really compete right now.
Baldy, final one for you right here. You talk about that explosiveness on offense. And when I look at Travion Henderson, I dream about Alvin Kamara. And I feel like I want to see that comparison. Is that too much of a stretch? And then, of course, obviously, Kamara, not just with how good of a player he is, but that fit in Sean Payton's offense. I can really see that being a fit here in Denver. Am I too far off on that, or is there a connection there?
Well, no, look, Sean, he knows what running backs look like. The thing that separated Kamara was just the versatility, how well he caught the ball. Now, Travion might be able to do that as well. Not many backs can catch the ball as well as Alvin Kamara. He runs routes like wide receivers. He catches the ball like a wide receiver. But his balance is crazy. It always has been. Now he's been banged up and had some injuries. He's slowing down a little bit. But, he was a third-round pick out of Tennessee. He might have had 1 year of production at Tennessee, but Sean saw it, and nobody else saw it. And that class of 2017, they had just finished 7-9 3 years in a row. And they got Ramczyk, Lattimore, and they got Kamara, and they went and won the division 4 years in a row or something like that. Like, Kamara was a big part of the turnaround. I don't want to compare anybody to Kamara just because of how rare he is.
Yeah.
But both those backs at Ohio State are really good players.
Yeah, I love that, and I love having you back on, Baldy. Thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to touching base with you every single week moving forward. Thanks, Baldy.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Talk to you.